Please note, this DVD is for viewing purposes only and is copyrighted. No permission is given for editing or otherwise altering content, posting on the Internet, or other duplication. A Military Tale is made possible in part with public funds from the New York State Council on the Arts Decentralization Program, administered in Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties by the St. Lawrence County Arts Council, and by grants from the Thousand Islands Bridge Authority and Bolt Castle.
Dear Sister, war is declared.
On June 18, 1812, President James Madison signed a declaration of war against Great Britain. Frustrated by Britain's maritime practices and support of Native American resistance to Western expansion, the United States entered the war determined to conquer Canada, a goal never realized. In the months following the declaration of war, the tiny lake port of Sackett's Harbor became the center of military and naval operations for the North. The strategic location, supported by abundant natural resources, offered a base for thousands of troops and shipbuilding operations, including 100 Marines to guard the shipyard.
What will be my fate, Sister? Will I see our family again? The children, our parents? I must tell you of my hardships this past year leading up to the declaration of war.
War is imminent. Fears run high in outposts like Sackett's Harbor, on New York's volatile border just across Lake Ontario from British territory. The Navy brig Oneida's crew tries to enforce the embargo laws to stop smuggling with Canada.
The turbulent spirit of the public persists in ignoring the embargo laws. I suggest a small detachment of Marines.
Sackett's Harbor Navy Commander Melancthon T. Woolsey, August 1808. 3 years later, and closer to war,
a Marine guard would prevent desertion on this station, where the crew must be quartered on shore during winter. Or should they remain on board, the brig being frozen in, it will be just as easy to escape as from barracks on shore.
Just 6 months later, the Sackett's commander reported,
"While at Whitestone, I apprehended a deserter, brought here with a sergeant of Marines. And from the Atlantic Fleet, a Marine who deserted from his ship 3 years ago delivered himself up to me, and now is on duty here."
Sister, we traveled from the New York City Navy Yard to Sackett's Harbor, a most difficult trek, and we left in such short order with no extra clothing or ammunition.
Sir, the detachment of Marines have arrived. Permit me to state the condition of their clothing. 10 of the privates are new recruits. Some had not so much as one change of linen. We are also without arms or accoutrements. I beg an early supply of clothing, as the cold is felt severely here at this time.
Sergeant William Hale, Sackett's Harbor, January 1, 1812. Marine Corps Headquarters, Washington, January 1812.
You must enlist men only from 21 to 45 years old, from 5 feet 4 to 6 feet high, and for each man before enlistment you must procure the surgeon's certificate of his being sound and fit for military service.
Sister, our march to this remote post, Sackett's Harbor, brought us through desolate tracts. The brig Oneida is a fine ship harbored here. We are to hinder smuggling with Upper Canada, but it is a difficult task. trading across the lake with friends and even family is customary.
March 1812.
To prepare for action and man the guns, it will require allowing 5 men and 1 boy to each gun, a total of 117. I acknowledge receipt of $1,000 to purchase a year's provisions, 144 barrels of beef and pork, 24 barrels of flour, 27,500 pounds of bread and 1,600 pounds of cheese, 650 pounds of butter, 2,064 gallons of whiskey, 284 gallons of vinegar.
Commander Melanchthon Woolsey.
June 1812. Sister, I fear war is imminent. Our commander, Woolsey, sailed the brig to Oswego to pick up a load of very good iron ballast and shot for our cannons, though he feared the shot too small for the carronades.
U.S. brig Oneida. I have discharged 2 Marines, both so infirm as never to be of any service to the United States. I would easily make up my complement for militia stationed at this port on Oswego, but their commanding officers will not permit it.
Commander Melanchthon Woolsey. Ready! In time, 300 Marines, or half of the Marine Corps in 1812, were stationed at Sackett's Harbor. A naval shipyard surrounding the harbor engaged as many as 3,000 sailors and workmen. A naval arms race emerged with Kingston just across the lake at Upper Canada, the British naval base. Out! Bayonet! Ah!
Sister, our commander here at Sackett's Harbor reported,
On board the brig Oneida, Sackett's Harbor, June 26, 1812. I was off Oswego when I first heard of war proclaimed by the President. The report appeared so authentic that I immediately sailed to advise the military and fill my ship's complement. On arrival, Colonel Bellinger handed me official dispatches from the governor, and as there was no longer any doubt of the actual existence of war, I applied to General Brown, commanding this brigade, to recruit volunteers. It is with great satisfaction I inform you that I had 26 hardy fellows join me. I intend incorporating the volunteers with my Marines. As soon as weather will permit, I shall be off in quest of the enemy. My officers and men are in good spirits.
And several days later,
I have also the honor to inform you that upwards of 30 men out of the militia stationed at this place have volunteered their services. So much patriotism has been shown by these men that the same may be encouraged in others on this frontier. I beg, sir, you will permit me to give them a bounty of $5 each.
troops on the frontier rally with the cry, "On to Canada!"
Spring, 1813. Sister, during the winter months, most of the lake was frozen. The ships at Sackett's Harbor were laid up, and we, the Marines, operated from the barracks next to Fort Tompkins. We provided guards for the ships under construction and various storehouses and ammunition supplies, certain that after the first attack on Sackett's Harbor last July, enemy forces will return.
February 1813, Sackett's Harbor. I have 22 guns mounted upon the ship Madison. We keep the ice cut from around her and have everything in the state of preparation to repel an attack at a moment's notice, either night or day. All the other vessels are calculated to protect each other, and no officer or man is permitted to leave his vessel after 8 o'clock. 2 blockhouses are nearly completed. These houses will add much to the means of protecting the fleet and forts against any sudden attack. The Marines which I required in my letter, I hope will be ordered to join me as early as possible.
Commodore Isaac Chauncey. By spring 1813, the British command began calculating operations for Lake Ontario. The British Secretary of Colonial Affairs issued a secret order to Governor Prevost in Upper Canada, calling for the complete destruction of the Sackett's Harbor Naval Base. He knew that whoever controlled the Great Lakes would have possession of Canada.
Sister, most of our Marines are far away at the Niagara frontier.
I'm happy to have it in my power to say that the American flag is flying over Fort George.
American forces capture the British fortification of Fort George on the Niagara Peninsula.
A handful of us present at Sackett's Harbor are sick or recovering. We man a small fortification on Navy Point just below the high ground in Fort Tompkins. Marine Sergeant Fisher reports to the senior Navy lieutenant here. Should the enemy attack, he must burn the big ship under construction, the General Pike, and all the naval supplies to prevent their capture. You cannot imagine our surprise to discover a British fleet coming towards Sackett's Harbor.
The moment it was so light as to see any object on the bay, the enemy's ships were discovered. The fleet approaching was an enemy. I no longer doubted they were resolved to land and storm our works.
General Jacob Brown.
Oh, sister, imagine the alarm. At the Navy Yard, the British advanced towards our defensive works. Cannon fire rained destruction upon us. Our militia withdrew. We believed our position had fallen. Orders were given to destroy the unfinished ship and all the supplies.
The streets were crowded with our soldiers, apparently in much confusion. Before I set fire, I hesitated some time, until officers and men on the point embarked in boats.
Marine Sergeant Fisher. When it was found that the British would not take the harbor, the fire set aboard the unfinished warship was quickly put out, but the storehouses and marine barracks were destroyed. This loss caused a delay in launching the Grand warship. Thus ends May 29, 1813, and the Second Battle of Sackett's Harbor. Both sides ultimately claimed victory. Though the British and Canadian troops could not win a decisive battle at Sackett's Harbor, neither could the U.S. fleet gain control of Lake Ontario early that summer in their effort to conquer Upper Canada. In May 1813, during the Second Battle of Sackett's Harbor, the Americans, thinking they were losing the battle, set fire to their warship under construction and the buildings housing the Marines. Although the enemy retreated and the ship was saved, the storehouses burned with all their contents.
The fire at Sackett's Harbor has caused great inconvenience. The men are totally without clothing. Our supply must be instantly sent. 100 uniform caps, coats, stocks, gaiters, blankets and knapsacks. 400 pairs of shoes and shirts. 200 pair of linen overalls.
Marines served aboard lake vessels throughout the war years, maintaining a guard at Sackett's Harbor into the 1820s. During the War of 1812, the sleepy little village of Sackett's Harbor was transformed into the bustling military headquarters of the northern frontier. Once war ended, the village regained its community and resumed trade with Canadian neighbors who shared a common language and history.
A Military Tale is made possible in part with public funds from the New York State Council on the Arts Decentralization Program, administered in Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties by the St. Lawrence County Arts Council, and by grants from the Thousand Islands Bridge Authority and Bolt Castle.